Live from the 10-metre diving platform at Wynyard Quarter for the Redbull Cliff Diving event and absolutely shitting ourselves. This is the agenda for Friday the 26th of January 2024.
The Agenda, an alternative commentary collective podcast.
Welcome in. As I mentioned, myself, G Lane, we're down here at Wynyard Quarter. We're 10 metres up in the air, looking out over the patrons of the Viaduct Harbour here. And Lane, this platform is not as steady as I thought it was before I walked out here.
No, it's not. It's so funny. It's just so pointless having a podcast on location, up a tower.
And the cool part about it is everyone's looking at us from down there. A few people are filming us as well. They're going to be sorely disappointed when they find out what it is
I think
we're doing up here.
I think there might be someone coming off the top. That's why they're looking up. They're not looking at us. I think someone's going to fly past us at some stage. But hey, later on in the podcast, we're talking to Orlando Duque,
yes,
who is one of the legends of cliff diving, from Colombia, now lives in Hawaii, and now goes around and helps running the events. So we're going to have a chat to him in a minute. He's going to join us up here.
Yes, yeah, the Redbull Cliff Diving event's going on in Auckland this weekend, the Saturday and Sunday down at Wynyard Quarter. If you want to come down and have a look, you can do that. But let's get into some actual sport straight off the top. The Black Caps Test squad has been named. The main talking points out of this one, Lane, for me, Ravindra finally in, Henry Nicholls out.
Yes, big call. Ravishing Rick Ravindra. They obviously had a plan, not playing him in the T20s and the one day, or they played him a couple of one days, saving him for the tests, obviously. So there was a plan there. All I wanted was someone to communicate the plan to me.
Yep.
That was obviously the plan. But no, strong team. Pity the South Africans aren't doing the same. So it's Tim Southey is the captain, the sexy camel.
Yep.
Took Blundell, Conway, Henry, Jameson, Latham, Mitchell, O'Rourke.
Punisher O'Rourke gets the call up.
Yeah, for the second test only. Zippy from Rainbow, Glenn Phillips, Ravishing Rick Ravindra, Sanders Little-Heltmer, Wagner, Steady to Ship Williamson, and Will Young. Yeah, you're right, Harry Nips is gone. So all the work to do for Harry Nips to get back into that team.
Well, it's tough to get back into the Black Caps, isn't it? Once you sort of fall out of favour. I mean, it's a tough team to get into in general. There's guys that ply their trade for decades and never get a shot, and then to fall out of favour is a tough one. We don't play a lot of tests. The Proteas B team, obviously they're doing their best to run a smear campaign at the moment, saying that this is still a powerful team that they've brought over. Their coach has said that he will not accept that they're underdogs, but this is almost disrespectful from the South Africans to rest almost an entire starting 11 and leave them at home.
Well, they're not even resting them. They're playing in their T20 competition. Yeah. So this is not even, I hate to say it, this is not even a B team.
No.
There is half the squad had never played a test. It is just an absolute dick shrinker for New Zealand, for South Africa to say that their domestic version of Super Smash means more to them. And look, they suck. In the World Test Championship, they suck. So they've obviously just binned that. They said it's all about money and growing the T20 game at home. Let's send a C team to New Zealand. And like you said, the coach is like, we've used this to galvanise ourselves. We are no New Zealand South African test. No sporting test. Is it cricket or rugby? I had to mention the rugby. Did you hear him say that?
Yeah.
It's like, there's always a competition. No, it's not. No. We're going to pump them in 3 days.
And as we should as well. We should absolutely hammer these guys and put a statement out there. If you're going to send a B team over here, just don't bother coming. Having said that, I'm thoroughly looking forward to the game starting next weekend. Let's move on to a bit of rugby as well. The Melbourne Shambles have entered into voluntary administration as the club continues its bid to survive past this year. The Shambles have debts amounting to $10 million. They owe $1 million to the Australian Taxation Office, so they haven't even been paying their taxes.
Oh, man.
And the Australians want to sit there and say that we need them for Super Rugby. This is bullshit. This is a clear example. It's from the top down. Australian rugby is a net. They say that we need them for viewership numbers, for all of this. Well, they're going under anyway. The Melbourne Shambles have been exactly that for the last 2 or 3 years. A shambles.
Yeah, look, they need Ben from accounts, don't they? Obviously, and there, Ben Smith. He's obviously joined the Highlanders set up, though, so they've missed out on that. But it's a tough assignment in being in Melbourne and a rugby team, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
AFL rules. League have got a foothold in there now. Cricket is obviously dominates. And rugby almost seems... It's a tough. I reckon it's a tough sell in Melbourne.
Well, there's no clearer example than the Super Round that they've had for the last 2 years that's been in Melbourne. It's their version of Magic Round of the NRL, and just no one shows up to it. So it's a clear example that Melbourne just aren't in on rugby. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I have a feeling they're going to end up going the way of sort of your Cheetahs and your some of those South African teams that came in and disappeared again. The Western Force, who then came back. But yeah, we'll see how that one goes. Part of the biggest bill that they had was they would rent Amy Park and just couldn't fill it out, so they were hemorrhaging money through that.
Well, that's kind of almost what happened with the Blues, and they're threatening to play elsewhere in Park. It's a similar situation when you're renting a national stadium and only filling 5,000 seats of a potential 40. There's got to be some losses somewhere. It just doesn't stack up. Moving on to a little bit of sailing lane. We're not too far from where Team New Zealand bases themselves when we have the America's Cup here. We're not too far from where Sail GP was supposed to happen until the council inevitably got in the way. But the Team New Zealand's been held up by the Houthis, the Houthi rebels over there in Yemen. So apparently, as part of their raids over there in that little strait, we now can't get our boat out. But this is the America's Cup team, eh? Not the Sail GP teams. Team New Zealand's youth and America's Cup teams, not Sail GP. Oh, okay. Which a lot of people confuse. The Sail GP is the series run by Coots and Larry Ellison. Which confusingly has very much the same skippers.
They're the America's Cup dudes, aren't they?
This is after the last race they had out of the Middle East with a fleet race with the AC40s. They've had a bit of an issue getting them out of the Middle East and down the strait.
Why don't they? Because obviously they get them around on shipping containers. This is what the hold-up is. The shipping lane's been blocked. Why don't they just chuck the thing overboard and just gas it and get away from the pirates there?
Yeah, so the pirates taking pot shots at the America's Cup boat as they run the gauntlet down the coast of Yemen.
Let's up the stakes a little bit. For far too long, sailing's just had a free pass. They're sailing unopposed. Let's get a bit of opposition in there.
So they have to wear helmets, life jackets, bulletproof vests, and then have a gunner on the front.
Mount a 50 cal.
Fight off the front.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Let's get a bit of jeopardy going for the Sail GP and the America's Cup.
Yeah, so that's the America's Cup. But Sail GP is coming to Christchurch, and we're going to be down there too, broadcasting live for that event. Pretty much almost already sold out down there. And Christchurch was voted by the sailors anonymously as the favourite destination of the teams.
Is that right?
They must have had a whale of a time down there. They must have got really stuck into a bit of the nightlife down there as well.
Littleton does go off some nights. It's actually the only place I've ever been sailing is over there in Littleton as well on a Year 8 camp. So it is the home of sailing, at least for me. And just finally, the Dulux Tradies 11 match is only a few months away now. Very, very close, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Last night we had the live draft of the... for the first time ever, we're going to 4 teams in the Dulux Tradies 11 fixture. 3 Tradies teams and 1 ACC team. So we're going to have a round robin before playing the final under lights at the Bay Oval. And I caught a look at the 3 teams from the Tradies 11. They've brought in 13 new recruits into those teams.
Okay.
So
it's a whole new team.
Yeah, we need all the help we can get.
So we get a chance for you and a mate in the famous Dulux Tradies 11 at the Bay Oval in March. How do people win that one?
You've just got to text, I think, Dulux to 3236, fill out the form. Looking for a keeper?
Yep. Yeah.
So if you're a keeper, you're a front runner.
And don't just tell us you're a keeper to get in the team, because we've got enough of those kind of people. We need someone who can a genuine gloveman. Yeah. By any other name.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I can just see the goat of cliff diving himself walking up onto the platform here.
He's good looking.
Oh, he's
a handsome man.
He's a beautiful, beautiful man. So we'll get him on, and we'll just take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Orlando Duque. All right. Well, for the first time in its 14-season history, Red Bull is bringing its world-famous Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series to our very own Tamaki Makoto this Saturday and Sunday at Wynyard Quarter. It's going to host the series finale that will see 24 of the world's most elite divers compete for global victory, and it is our pleasure. Well, pleasure might not be the right word, Lane, because we're standing on a shaky 10-metre diving deck. But it is a real honour to welcome one of the greatest to ever jump off a cliff, Orlando Duque. Thank you very much for joining us, mate.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to have you here, and this is a good place to talk,
Yeah, look, it wobbled slightly when we came out. Don't do that, Manaia. Jesus Christ. Orlando, Red Bull Cliff Diving. I think everyone at some stage on their social feed has come across those amazing shots in the Mediterranean of crazy people doing handstands off a plank and diving into a thin little piece of ocean. And now you're here in Auckland. Tell us a bit about you. Obviously, you're a 13-time world champion. You've won 9 of these events. You retired in 2019. Tell us a bit about cliff diving, how it came about. You're obviously one of the legends of cliff diving. Just talk. How did it come about?
It's just from regular diving. All of us used to do diving, but diving in the pool is like, it's cool. But all the pools look the same, you know. So then we started cliff diving, searching for different places, and then eventually comes to the competition, and now we're gonna see who's the best in the world, you know. So basically, in looking different locations around the world and making new challenges for us, you know. Every cliff, every city, every place is completely different. So I think that's where that special part for cliff diving comes from, you know. It's not your usual diving in the pool anymore.
So this is a bunch of people who got bored of going to the pools and wanted to see the world, and let's make up a tour where we jump off some sick cliffs in some sick countries.
Exactly. That's pretty much it, you know. But let's say in the last few years, what has happened with Redbull Cliff Diving, which is super cool, is the level of competition. I mean, the difficulty of the dives. It is pretty crazy. I mean, this wobbles a little bit. The one on the top doesn't wobble. That one is actually really sturdy, but you're going to see the dives. You see the progression of what the sport has done. Like, yes, it's always been a competition, but it has been evolving so much. And at the point we're at right now, I mean, it's crazy to see what the divers are doing.
Yeah, it's getting out of control a little bit. As we're standing here on the 10-meter diving platform, what's the one directly above us?
Directly above us is 20 meters.
And then the highest one?
27 meters.
Is that is that sort of regulation for the competition? 27 is about the limit?
27 is about, let's say, we have a range between 26 and 28, but we like to push it a little bit to the higher end because the dives being executed actually need a little bit more height, so we try to go a little bit higher. But let's say it's a strange height, 27 meters. Why?
Yeah.
But it's kind of like the easiest way for us to practice the dives is inside the pool in the 10 meter. So it's kind of the perfect next step. 27 meters. 30 is a little bit too high. 24, 25 is a little bit too low. So it's just it has a logic, you know.
Yeah. What's the highest you've ever jumped off? Obviously the Red Bull one's at 27, but you must have jumped off some monsters in your time. What's the highest cliff dive you've ever done?
The highest I did, it was about 34 meters.
Oh god.
Is that a world record?
No. The world record is a friend of ours, Lasso. He's from Switzerland. He did 59 meters.
What?
That is crazy.
That's like the top of a very tall building. Like,
Sky tower.
27 meters is 7 stories, they say.
It's a little bit more. It's actually 9, 10 stories. But 60 is like 20. I mean, it is really high.
Yeah.
Even for us that we jump from high things, that is very high.
So, and the difference, obviously, with Red Bull cliff diving and all kind of high diving, you land feet first, don't you? No one's going Swede first into the water.
No. I mean, there's people that have done it. They used to do it in competition, but as the season grew, like as the event grew so much, we do 8 events a year plus the competitions from the federations. So at the end, it ends up being like a 10, 12 events. And I mean, the risk of injury is too high if we go in head first.
Yeah.
So it's just...
Is that the impact on your head? Is it like a concussion? Is that what happens?
We can get concussions even landing feet first.
Yeah.
So imagine making a mistake and you're going head first. It could be really dangerous.
Oh, I can totally see where that comes from, because my mate Damo at the Tarapa Pools in Hamilton, he went off the 10 metre feet first, but he split his legs slightly, and his testicles just got mashed. They were black and blue for weeks. He was lucky, actually. He almost didn't get ripped apart. And that was just from a 10 metre jumping off. 27 metres, that would do some serious damage.
There is. I mean, let's say it is not very often, because these guys are actually very talented. They're very good. Yeah. But it happens every now and then that there is some injuries. That's a common one. The legs spread apart, you know, or like a bruise or broken tailbone when you over rotate. You know, and
what about a belly flop? Does anyone ever?
It's like we try not to, because that could be that could be like serious. Fatal, like really, an internal bleeding, and then sorry, but that could be fatal. But let's say we're trained that if, for example, if I lose orientation in the air, that can happen. Yeah. I will never stay completely spread out. I'll go really small and try to save myself.
Yeah.
But no, it can happen. You can lose consciousness, and you're on the water unconscious. That's why we have a rescue team that goes and search for you every time after every dive in case something like that happens.
It's pretty high stakes. How much preparation goes into these competitions? There's so many competitions going on. You mentioned the training off the 10-meter diving board, but what other kinds of things go into preparing for these?
Oh, I mean, now this is their job. This is what they do full time. So all of them, like, they finish here, they have their physiotherapist inside, so they're getting worked on. Then they're going to go to their trainers. Everybody has their own little team that is actually preparing your body for the whole season. Like, you prepare for a fight, for a long fight. And they're very conscious about that. They have to maintain their weight a little bit because to do the big dives and everything. So it's a real job. It's not like just crazy guys going to 27 meters and running.
Yeah. What about the night before? Are you dreaming about falling? Is that what happens?
It happens. It happens. When I used to compete. You go to sleep the night before and you're always thinking, about my competition next day, and then sometimes I'll just wake up and I'll like, oh, yeah, just dreaming about my dives. All the time is in your head. It has to be like that.
Yeah, you also mentioned the physique. I just wanted to touch on this. Everybody's in really good nick. Is there a place in the sport for the fuller figured gentlemen?
Ask you for some, you may obviously ask you for some.
Well, I know some of the best divers that I know off bridges and etc. They're huskier gentlemen, but obviously you mentioned they're professional athletes. Is that what it takes these days?
It is actually. You think you need to be big and strong. I mean, strong for sure, but if you're actually a little bit lighter, if you're a little bit smaller, you can move a little bit better in the air, and it helps you to do this more complicated dives, this more complicated maneuvers.
I mentioned it just before we came on air that in New Zealand we're more used to just laying out manus and bombs, none of those flips and perfecting it. So it's going to be good to see some real good athletes, proper athletes. Can I just talking about the kind of cliff diving, the high dive. I kind of compare it to the Olympics, the Winter Olympics. And remember the riskiest and the most daring thing at the Olympics 20 years ago was the long jump, and Eddie the Eagle, and everyone was like, whoa, look at that. And, if you weren't into Winter Olympics, you'd be around the TV, watch the long jump. And now they've got the freestyle downhill, they've got the big air, and now it makes that looks so boring. And I feel like this cliff diving is that's what it is to just normal platform diving at the Olympics and things. Is that the ultimate goal, is to get this into an Olympic Games?
Exactly. That's it. It's not easy, of course, because of course the Olympics, they have their their special way to work, but we're in that process. Like, we've come from, let's say, from Redbull Cliff Diving to competing at the World Championships with the Federation and everything, and the IOC for sure is paying attention to what we do, and we keep growing, and as we keep growing, hopefully the ultimate for us is going to be the Olympic Games. I mean, it's going to be so much fun.
Oh, that'd be amazing, and like I said, it would make the actual diving, the 10-meter platform just look a bit shit. You know what I mean? They're like the long jumpers. I hope it does, because I mean they've got parkour in there in Paris. They've got rock climbing.
True.
They've got, and you think that
skateboarding, breakdancing.
You think this is just an evolution of a current sport, and I think that's what the kind of Winter Olympics was done so well, and brought a whole new generation people in who are interested. Just watching these kids do about a squillion flips upside down.
True, they're doing that. The Olympics is doing that. They're bringing all these different sports. Before we were like the bad guys. Oh, you were the ones in the street. No, now they're bringing them in, and they know it's a different crowd. So we're hoping that happens with us at some point.
Yep, big time. Lane, you were talking about the tricks and how far they've come in snow sports. Is it similar with cliff diving? How different are the tricks that are being pulled off today versus when you started?
Well, it's completely different. Like, in fact, we've been having meetings with the athletes lately because some of the rules need to be changed and modified and adapted to the progression of the sport, which is great. Like, that happens every few years only. Like, in my career, I competed for 22 years, so in those 22 years I saw some of those changes, and now is again the next level, the level that we never thought it was going to get to, and now they're there and they're looking at even more. So you're like, okay, this is really cool, because you can see how everything is progressing.
For anyone that's looking to come down over Saturday and Sunday and check it out, it's just down at Wynyard Quarter, Saturday the 27th and 28th. If you're listening to this later on, you've missed it. But what exactly are the judges looking for? What are the criteria for the competitors?
The judges, they only score execution. Okay. They don't look at difficulty. They don't look at anything else. It's just execution. So it's three main things. The first one, the takeoff, has to be strong, powerful. It's not like a little jump, a scary jump. No, you see that they're jumping really, really powerful. So that's good. The distance, that is not so far, and also that is not so close. That is dangerous. Yeah. And then during the flight is just the technical elements. Everything has to be very clean, nice, long, straight legs. They'll check all that. Let's say the technical part of the dive. And then finally the water entry. No splash. The cleanest possible is better, and it has to be vertical. Nothing out of vertical. They penalize that.
Is there any room in the sport for props? Perhaps could you jump off with wings or some sort of costume or a ball or
a Coke bottle?
Actually, the only thing we have on is a little bathing suit. That's our that's our safety equipment.
The Speedo's they're mandatory. The Speedo is that?
It's, to be honest, is better.
Yeah.
Because at the speed that we fall and the way that we fall, you don't want any loose parts. You
come out of the water butt naked.
You want the bathing suit actually really tight. You want to be able to protect yourself a little bit too.
Well, there's going to be some good rigs on display then. So if you want to come down for the diving, come check out the rigs. Orlando, who should we look out for in the next couple of days?
Definitely for the women's, Rhiannon Iflin. She's Australian. She's won World Championships, World Series. I think she's won like the last 30 events. Nobody comes close to her. She's so graceful to watch.
Yeah.
Molly Carlson, that's a Canadian that's in second place there, kind of giving Rhiannon a little bit of a hard time. So that's going to be really good. And then for the men, Constantine, the Romanian, Catalin, the other Romanian, they're doing big dives. Carlos, the Mexican diver, doing his back handstand 4.5 somersaults. It's really cool. It's going to be really cool.
It's terrifying.
Awesome.
It does sound awesome. And as I said, if you want to get down here, you can check it out Saturday and Sunday, 27th and 28th of January. Thank you very much for your time, Orlando. I'm going to throw Lane off the end of this platform.
I brought my towel. Hey, Orlando Duque, thank you very much for joining us. Good luck over the next couple of days, and thanks for hosting us on this platform that's been wobbling every time someone moves, and just a little bit of poos comes out of my pants every time that happens.
Thank you very much, guys. Let's enjoy the competition this weekend. Thank you.
You've been listening to the ACC's Agenda podcast. For more episodes, subscribe on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts.